Imagine a primal scream echoing across a muddy field, a collision that reverberates through time, shaking the very foundations of what you thought football could be. Prepare yourself to enter the unforgiving gladiatorial arena of the 1960s and 70s, where one man redefined brutality and cemented his legacy as the most feared player to ever stalk the gridiron. Step back with me, if you will, to a Chicago that bled blue and orange, where the wind whipped off Lake Michigan, carrying with it the scent of steel and the roar of a burgeoning metropolis. This was not a world of soft landings or padded contracts, this was a world forged in grit, where football was less a game and more a primal struggle for dominance. In the heart of this raw, visceral landscape, a legend was being chiseled from the very earth, Dick Butkus. Born in the city, raised on its tough streets, Butkus was not just a player, he was an elemental force, a manifestation of the city's rugged spirit. From the moment he stepped onto a football field, first at Chicago Vocational High School, then at the University of Illinois, it was clear that he possessed something profoundly different, something untamed and relentlessly aggressive. His very presence was a challenge, a declaration that the rules of engagement had irrevocably shifted. He didn't just play the game, he consumed it, every fiber of his being focused on the utter destruction of anything that stood between him and the ball carrier. Opponents spoke in hushed tones, almost reverentially, of his early exploits, tales that painted him as a mythical figure even before he wore an NFL uniform. He was the thunder before the storm, the shadow that loomed large over every play, every practice, every opponent's waking nightmare. His intensity wasn't taught, it was innate, bubbling from a deep well of competitive fury that few could comprehend, let alone match. He arrived in the league not as a prospect, but as a prophecy, a grim harbinger of pain for any offense foolish enough to challenge his domain. When the Chicago Bears selected Dick Butkus with the 3rd overall pick in the 1965 NFL Draft, they weren't just acquiring a linebacker, they were adopting a force of nature. From his very first snap, the league knew what it was dealing with. Butkus was a whirlwind of controlled chaos, a human missile programmed for destruction. He didn't just tackle, he detonated, turning simple plays into violent spectacles. His college reputation had preceded him, a dark cloud of anticipation hanging over the league. Before ever playing an NFL snap, Dick Butkus was already legendary, appearing on a Sports Illustrated cover with the headline, "The Most Feared Man in the Draft." This wasn't hype, it was an accurate forewarning. Opposing coaches would draw up entire game plans centered not on beating the Bears, but on avoiding Butkus. Running backs would audible away from his side of the field, quarterbacks would hold on to the ball a fraction of a second longer, hoping for an escape route that rarely materialized. He moved with a brutal grace, an uncanny ability to diagnose plays, seemingly knowing where the ball would be before the snap. Once he locked onto his target, there was no escape. His hands, often described as bear traps, would engulf a player, and then the true punishment would begin. He wasn't content with just bringing a player down, he wanted to make them feel every inch of their descent, every ounce of his power. He'd slam them to the turf, often driving them through it, a human jackhammer with an insatiable appetite for contact. His eyes, observers often noted, held a chilling intensity, a predatory gleam that seemed to pierce through helmets and pads, stripping away any pretense of courage from those who dared to face him. He didn't just play for tackles, he played for psychological victories, for the silent acknowledgement of fear in his opponent's eyes. The fear Butkus inspired was not merely respect for a great player, it was a profound, existential dread that seeped into the very soul of his opponents. Quarterbacks would glance his way, a shiver running down their spine even before the ball was snapped. Running backs, those gladiators of the backfield, would openly admit to adjusting their routes, consciously avoiding the lanes where 51 roamed. He wasn't just a threat, he was a personal vendetta against anyone wearing a different colored jersey. His tackles were not just impactful, they were surgical, designed to extract not just yards, but the will to compete. He'd strip the ball with a savagery that left players clutching at phantom pain, or deliver a hit that reverberated through their bones for days. This wasn't an accident, it was by design. Butkus himself famously admitted, "I don't think I ever went into a game where I didn't plan on hurting somebody." This wasn't bravado, it was a chilling declaration of intent, a window into the mind of a player who viewed the game as a gladiatorial contest with no quarter given. He was known for his Butkus bite, a seemingly innocuous grab in a pile-up that would send a jolt of pain, a reminder of his presence, through an opponent's arm or leg. He thrived on the psychological warfare, relishing the moment an opponent flinched, hesitated, or looked away. He would stalk the sidelines, a coiled predator, his gaze fixed on the opposing offense, letting them feel the weight of his anticipation. Stories abound of players who, after a particularly brutal encounter with Butkus, were simply never the same, their confidence shattered, their love for the game irrevocably dimmed. He didn't just win plays, he won battles of attrition, wearing down not just bodies, but spirits. His intensity was a constant, unrelenting wave, crashing over an entire offense until their resolve broke. Butkus's relentless intensity wasn't just about inflicting pain, it was about an unyielding, almost pathological commitment to victory. He played every snap as if it were his last, with a ferocity that bordered on self-destruction. His body was a testament to this all-consuming drive, he constantly battled injuries, particularly to his knees, yet rarely missed a game. He played through pain that would have sidelined lesser men for seasons, strapping on his pads and walking back onto the field, an undeniable force of will. His influence stretched beyond his tackles, he elevated the play of everyone around him, demanding a similar level of commitment and intensity. Teammates both revered and feared him, understanding that his standards were impossibly high, yet his loyalty was absolute. He was the undisputed leader of the Bears' defense, the fulcrum around which their entire identity revolved. His impact on the game, however, extended beyond his on-field persona. Despite his ferocious on-field persona, Butkus was known to be a dedicated family man and a surprisingly soft-spoken individual off the field, often charming reporters with self-deprecating humor. This stark contrast only deepened the mystique surrounding him. How could a man capable of such calculated brutality be so personable, so thoughtful, so utterly different away from the roar of the crowd? It was a paradox that baffled many, making him an even more intriguing figure, a man who could flip a switch, transforming from gentle father to vengeful warrior in an instant. This duality wasn't a flaw, it was a testament to his mental fortitude, his ability to compartmentalize and unleash a specific, potent brand of aggression when the game demanded it. He was a master of his craft, both physically and psychologically, understanding the fine line between ferocity and controlled chaos, always leaning towards the former when the stakes were highest. His legacy was cemented not just in highlight reels, but in the collective psyche of a generation of football players who witnessed his raw power firsthand. The climax of Butkus's reign wasn't a single play, but a chilling philosophy he embodied. Imagine a quarterback, already rattled, scrambling out of the pocket, seeing the familiar number 51 closing in. The instinct is to brace, to protect the ball, to survive. But for Butkus, survival was never the objective for his opponent. He wasn't just seeking a tackle, he sought a declaration of ownership, a visceral reminder of who controlled the field. There's a widely circulated, almost whispered story among NFL veterans, a tale that paints a picture of his psychological terror. It's said that during a pile-up, when the whistle had already blown, Butkus would lean in close to a prone opponent, his helmet still pressed against theirs, and murmur, not a taunt, but a low, guttural promise, "I'm coming for you again. And next time, it'll be worse." This wasn't about cheap shots, it was about mind games, about implanting a seed of dread that would blossom into full-blown panic by the next snap. But the truly unsettling moment, the one that defines his darkest genius, came from his own mouth, an admission that transcends mere aggression. While already known for his plan to hurt someone, Butkus once expanded on this, describing his on-field thought process with a terrifying clarity. He wasn't just targeting knees or shoulders, he was aiming for the very will of an opponent. He spoke of wanting to tear a man's head off and put it on a stick, a phrase delivered not in anger, but with a cold, almost surgical detachment in interviews. This wasn't a metaphor for effort, it was a chilling glimpse into a mind that viewed opponents as obstacles to be utterly dismantled, their physical and psychological well-being secondary to his objective. This brutal, unvarnished honesty, this willingness to articulate a desire for such extreme, almost barbaric, dominance, transcended mere athleticism and dove headfirst into the realm of the truly terrifying. It revealed not just a player of immense talent, but a primal force, a man whose intensity blurred the lines between sport and survival, leaving an indelible, haunting mark on the history of the game. Dick Butkus was more than a player, he was a living, breathing monument to football's rawest essence, a legend whose shadow still looms large, forever begging the question, could any man truly tame the monster of Midway, or merely survive him?